Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Anaya, and I want to thank you so much for joining me for the Women's Eye podcast, where you will meet fascinating women who are leaving their mark, making a difference, and changing lives. This episode is brought to you by Casco Financial Group in Phoenix, Arizona. Catherine Scrivano is the president of Casco Financial Group. She founded her business to help people create the financial strength needed for achieving their dreams. My guest today is a speaker, vision leader, author, and personal coach, Carey Conley. And Carey is a friend of mine, and I'm so happy that she is here joining me on the Women's Eye. Good to see you, Carey.
It's great to see you. This is so
Thank you.
fun.
So we're all hunkered down at home right now, and this is obviously something new for us, doing this physical distancing. But
Yes.
I'm so appreciative of you making the time to join me on the podcast.
Well, I'm honored to be here. Thanks for asking me.
So given the challenging time that we're all going through right now with COVID-19, I cannot think of a better time to talk about what you like to talk about, and that is staying focused, staying positive, and forward thinking in a time like this where there's so much uncertainty.
Right.
This health crisis hitting everybody across the board in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
First of all, tell me how you're doing.
I'm doing well. You know, I live alone, and I've been used to working from home and doing this for many years. So for me, it has not been that big of a change, as much as it has been for people who are used to going to an office, their kids going to school.
Yes.
I can really feel for the moms right now who are trying to homeschool and still work.
It's
Yeah,
very difficult, especially
very
when you don't
difficult.
have anywhere to go to, relieve that stress.
Right.
So let's talk about what's happening with a lot of people right now, because you're busy, busier than ever, because people are really looking for these ways of staying vision driven.
Right.
People are losing their jobs. Like you said, they're trying to balance working from home and having to homeschool their kids. Some people I know can't even afford to eat right now. So
Yeah.
tell me, first of all, what it means to be a vision leader, which is what you are, and how you help people maintain that vision, that positivity in times of uncertainty.
Right. Well, it's kind of long story I'll make short. I wrote my first vision when I was about 26 years old. I was encouraged by a mentor because I was really frustrated working in the corporate world. It just wasn't fitting what I really wanted. So she encouraged me to take an entire day and on a legal pad of paper, because this was in the 1980s, I wrote out every detail of what I wanted my life to look like. Um, Literally what kind of wife I wanted to be, mom I wanted to be. I was noodling some ideas around being an entrepreneur because I really didn't know. And on one of the lines on the piece of paper, Catherine, I literally wrote that someday I thought I wanted to be a speaker on vision and goal setting. No idea where that came from. Other than I now know, it was basically because I was getting so quiet with myself that I really believe that God and I were collaborating. He was kind of telling me, this is what I have in store for you. This is what your purpose is going to be, knowing what was going to come in my life, of course. So fast forward now, I've coached and taught people, thousands of people, how to write their own vision for the same reasons, for making changes and figuring out what they really want in life and being able to really go after it. And now more than ever, I really am talking a lot about vision because so many people are feeling so lost and having to make changes in their life, being forced into it, which may not be a really bad thing. I see the possibility that a lot of people who've been dreaming about making a change now will probably go after it, especially if they've lost a job.
Well,
So,
this health crisis, though, it's something like none of us have ever experienced before.
right,
So help how does having a clear vision help us
right.
weather not just this particular situation, but any storm in
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. So how it's helped me, as you know, is that I've lost both my husband and my son to suicide in the past 6 years. And what I learned through that was because I was so anchored in my vision and knowing my purpose that I didn't drift from that. And I think right now, again, so many people are in so much fear, Catherine, because they have no idea what to do with this. It's a change that none of us, this is unprecedented, right? So we just don't know what this looks like. But I have been through something like this kind of tragedy personally, as I know you have been too, that for me, I've just really grounded myself more in my vision and purpose. It's what's anchoring me and keeping going every day. And now why I'm talking more and more about why people need to really understand what this is all about and what their purpose is.
So when you teach people about finding that purpose through vision, and this is not a vision board, this is
Right.
something deeper. Talk
Yes.
to me a little bit about the process involved and how that differs.
Right. Vision boards are great. I have one. I've always had one. And a lot of people have one. But where people stop with the vision board is it becomes a someday board, meaning they put the pictures up, but then they don't do anything about it. Just thinking, I guess, that it's just going to just miraculously drop in their driveway or something one day, right? So I get people to really dig deep by taking out this legal pad of paper, which I still highly recommend, and dating it as if it's 3 years from today. So imagine 3 years from today and think about how old you're going to be, how old your kids are going to be, your grandkids, nieces and nephews, and anybody older in your life that you're really involved in. Because there's two things that are non-negotiable. Time is one, and aging is the second. Time's going to pass no matter what. We can't stop it. And if 3 years you and I decide to go on a beach trip, which would be lovely, we'll be 3 years older, right? So I get them to think like that because that starts bringing up a whole lot of stuff around, wow, okay, so a lot can change in 3 years, especially if you've got kids. You can see how life shifts are coming as they age. And a lot of people don't really think about that. They don't think ahead. So what they don't do is prepare right now for what they really want it to look like. So we go really deep into, okay, let's talk about what 3 years looks like. What do you want that to look like? Envision it as big and as bold and as beautiful as you want, because anything is possible regardless of the circumstances you are in personally or what we're in globally right now. Right.
And
So,
so when you were talking a little bit about the silver lining in all of this and us having the the time to do things that maybe we didn't have before because we are hunkered down and sheltered in place, this is an opportunity then for us to practice exactly what you're talking about and write
right,
down what that looks like 3 years from now for us, or what
right,
we want it to look like.
right,
So it's important, you say, because your vision can change, but the vision for your purpose doesn't.
right.
Explain that a little more in depth.
Well, obviously, when I wrote my vision when I was 26 years old, it involved seeing a future, with my husband still in it, my son in it, and where we were living at the time. I didn't ever envision that I was going to be leaving Colorado, which is where I'm from, and now living in Arizona. So some of the logistics have changed, but what hasn't changed are the core values and the person that I wanted to become and what my purpose is. And mostly what I wrote about, Catherine, on those sheets of paper was a lot about my core values that I wanted to instill in my kids, the service that I wanted to bring to the world, and understanding what I was really brought here to do. Not only has that not changed, it's now been 10x.
Mm.
So that is the biggest reason I want people to write their vision. It's not so much about the stuff they want or the achievements we want to get to, the successes. It's really about discovering why you believe you're here on this earth and what your service is that you're supposed to carry out before leaving earth, right?
Mhm.
And most people never get that far in their life.
But you did touch on the fact that a lot of us are being forced into a
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah.
We don't have the luxury of just deciding, well, let's do something new. We're being forced into it. Are you encountering, because I know you're doing a lot of video conferencing with people right now and clients,
Yeah.
are you finding that people are feeling a little, almost a touch of depression? And
Hmm.
how do you get out of that point? Because you mentioned trauma. We've both dealt with it.
Right.
When it hits, you have no place to go but to be strong and get things done and get through it, whether it's for yourself, your kids, whatever it is. This is a situation where you can't even leave your house
right?
So how do you work your way through that feeling of being lost, like you said earlier?
Well, the biggest thing, and I think we hear this loud and clear, is we've got to stay connected. Thank God we have tools like this that we're on right now. It would be very scary to me if we didn't have any way to be able to stay connected. So the first thing is we've got to stay connected. And the worst thing people can do is isolate. And that is a very strong feeling that people have when they go through something traumatic, is they want to shrink. They want to disconnect. They want to disconnect because they don't feel like anybody else is feeling like they are, which is so not true. They feel like everybody else is being strong and they can't. They feel like they don't have the energy to stay motivated. And seriously, isolation is the worst thing you can do, because this is where people start going down that dark hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got to really encourage people to stay connected, which is why I'm doing so much Zoom meetings with my clients right now, and Zoom, get-togethers with my girlfriends to check in and see how we're doing. And I'm still bringing on clientele, most especially the ones who are needing to build their business now, right? Because this is a matter of, I got to make this work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now more than ever.
Now more than ever.
You touched on the loss of Ross, your husband, in 2014, and then Cole, your son, who died 3 years later. Where did you find the strength to get through that? I know I've asked you this a million
Yeah.
times, but it's still something that I have a hard time even understanding what I would feel like in that situation.
Right.
How did you find that strength to get through it?
Well, faith. It's faith. It's knowing that, the strength that I have is not mine, Catherine. It's truly not mine. If I were acting in my own strength right now, that would not be good. So I have to dig a little deeper and know that another power takes over, which it does. I have to tell you, you can't believe losing a child that would happen, but it does. So first losing my husband, of course, at that moment, I was now a single parent and I had 2 adult kids that were relying on me. And there was a lot happening at that point. Right when Ross died, Cole was already, he had already had a job lined up here in Arizona with Channel 12. So we had to get through the memorial service and get him here so he could start the new job. And then my daughter was a junior in college, so she needed to get back to school. And so we had to get everybody back in place. And so that became my job. So as a mom, you kick into high gear.
Yes.
There is no shrinking. You get up and you go. When Cole died, that was a whole different thing, whole different dynamic of a relationship. And so I did self-isolate for a long time. Spent a lot of time in Oklahoma with my daughter and just shut down my business for the most part, quit networking, quit doing all the stuff that I had done. And I went within, I did a whole lot of reading, a whole lot of talking to people who are very highly intuitive. My daughter went through counseling and some group support. I went inward. That's one of the things we learned, she and I, through this whole thing, is that we both dealt with it in our own way and needed to support each other that way. So I just have to encourage people that if you're not feeling strong, you have to really plug into a higher power.
Right.
That's all there is
Faith
to it.
definitely is stronger than fear. That's for sure.
Yes.
You have learned to feel the joy without the pain. And you've written a book with Laurel, your daughter, about finding that joy. It's called Keep Looking Up, Transforming Grief into Hope After Tragedy. When did you know that you wanted to write this book and that you were ready to write this book?
Mm-hmm. Well, when Ross died, the 3 of us always knew that one way or another we were going to be sharing our story with the world. And then when Cole died, obviously Laurel and I knew we were going to have to carry out that mission. The timing, of course, was well over a year after Cole had died and I had gone back to work, and we were ready to collaborate on that together, because we felt so compelled to answer all the questions that people wanted answers to. And one of those questions, of course, that you just asked me is, how do you find the strength? And so many others. It's 11 chapters. We tell our story in the beginning of the book, but it's 11 chapters of what we learned in the journey in hopes that it will help other people going through whatever adversity they're in. And most especially, it's for those people that would come forward to us and constantly say, we don't know how to help you. Or they would say, I have a friend going through something and I don't know how to help them. So that was one of the biggest driving forces, was we had so many people saying, we just don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You want it to be sort of a resource as well.
Yeah, very much as a resource. In each chapter, we break out, I talk about how I am perceiving this, and then she talks about how she perceives it. And then there's questions at the end of every chapter. So it literally can become like a topic of discussion for a group.
Mm-hmm. I
Or
love
to ask yourself.
Well, and you write, like you said, about the lessons that you've learned in this journey, and it's really inspiring and it's a very moving book. What do you want people to feel after they read it, to think?
I want people to know, again, that I just think one of the biggest epidemics we have going on right now, and I think social media has a lot to do with this, is that we think we're alone in how we're feeling. And we're very afraid to be vulnerable with each other, which is another positive thing I see coming out of where we are right now. Is I think we're being forced to be a whole lot more vulnerable and transparent with each other, which is what we desperately need. So that's the biggest thing. I think we just want people, we wanted the book, most especially my daughter kept saying, we wanted the book to be relatable. Mm-hmm. We wanted people to feel like they could relate to us and open up with other people about how they're feeling. So much of depression is people just can't talk about how they're feeling. And that's a slippery slope.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really tough. I'm
Yes.
a firm believer, we've discussed this in post-traumatic growth, finding meaning and purpose from tragedy. What is your message to people who are suffering and hurting right now in this world of COVID-19 that we're all living in? Because it is serious. It is real.
It is. I don't want people to not be informed, but I also think people are getting very obsessed. And I don't know if you said this to me yesterday, Catherine, or somebody else said, I want people to see the possibility, not the panic. And that's the bigger problem we have, I think, going on right now, is that people are getting so obsessed with it, they're panicking, and that panic breeds more panic. Mm-hmm. So what we have to do is get a hold on how we are starting our day every day. I talk a lot about this, how one of the biggest tips I can give people is the first hour of your day is critical. I learned a long time ago, and it has served me well being through what I've been through the past 6 years, that my first hour is in quiet, total quiet time. Because I can wake up and the immediate action or feeling I can have is, this is my life. I have all this loss and they're not here and our family is this, and you can go into this whole downward spiral. Or I can spend the first hour capturing that thought and that emotion and flipping it around. And I think now more than ever, we have so many tools for that. Podcasts, books you can read, devotions you can do, journaling, meditation. It's at our fingertips now more than ever. And I do all of the above. Because I learned from a very wise man who's one of my mentors. He said to me, the first action of the day is the only action of the day. Every other action after that is a reaction to the first action.
That's so profound.
Isn't it? It caught me. He said it in a coaching call we had, and I was like, you are so right. And that's the biggest message I think we need to get across right now, is your first thought of the day needs to be caught. And we need to change it into, how can I make this day better, not only for myself, but for the people around me? Because we have people that are looking up to us, and they're looking to us for hope and inspiration. And I take that very, very seriously.
Hope is a big word. And
yes.
I love inspiration, and you certainly embody both of those.
Thank you.
Before I let you go, you have a Facebook group that you're starting or have started?
I've started. We started it a couple of months ago. It's called Vision Driven Life. And I invite everybody to join in there. I go in there on a regular basis doing a lot of different things, quotes, reflections. I go in there live on a regular basis. I've started now a new set time every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, Catherine. I'm going in and doing what I call Clarity with Carey.
I love that.
And I talk about how vision helps you stay more clear, more focused, set better boundaries with your time in your life. And I'm starting to bring on some guests with me. This past week, I brought on the very first person I coached, a very dear friend of mine I've known since junior high. Very, literally the first person that I walked through the vision process that I've created and had her talk about how vision has helped her get through all of her adversities. She's one of the most relatable people on the planet. So yeah, I love the Facebook group, starting to interact there, starting to get people engaging and adding, sharing people in. So it's great.
Okay, so people can find it on Facebook, and it's Vision Driven Life.
Correct.
Clarity with
Yes.
Carey.
Yes.
Don't want to miss it.
Yes.
Well, Carey, thank you so much for sharing some of your wisdom. I know that people are going to benefit greatly from it, especially now, and for just helping people continue to find their purpose and their vision in life. And, like I've said all week, we're in this together.
Right.
We really are.
We
So
are.
I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you. And by the way, you can learn more about Carey Conley by going to our website, thewomenseye.com. Also, you should note that The Women's Eye has a book. It's called 20 Women Change Makers. You can shop for it wherever you buy books, and of course at changemakersbook.com. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Women's Eye podcast. I thank you so much for joining me. I'm Catherine Anaya. Thanks again to Carey Conley. Until next time, remember, it is the world as we see it.